When I think about all of the people that we've worked through over the years, it's a willingness to fail. You've got to be willing to learn along the way, assess, analyze, and then change course if you need to, or keep doing what you're doing if it's working. But just because you've done something once doesn't mean that that's it. That's the end. If it's worked the first time, great, keep going with it. But if it hasn't worked, tweak it, analyze it. Change things up and go again. There's so many stories that I've had of people that have done it this time and they haven't got the best results, but then they've kept going, they've tweaked a few things and they've done it, pretty much replicated the same thing with a few tweaks and they've done amazing. So it's just being open to feedback and open to analyzing and critiquing and changing and moving forward because, a step forward is a step forward.
Hello, and welcome again to RDs Thriving in Private Practice, where we share our collective wisdom about building a nutrition practice and get inspired. Joining me today is Brianna Fear-Keen. Brianna is an accredited practicing dietitian based in Australia with 14 years of diverse experience in the public system, private sector, and her own business. As the founder of the Ambitious Dietitian, she is dedicated to creating a world where dietitians can thrive in their passion and achieve unique success in their businesses. Frustrated by the challenges many new graduates face, Brianna launched the Ambitious Dietitian in 2017 to empower dietitians at any stage of their careers. She has successfully helped over 50 dietitians establish their own practices, combining her industry knowledge with technical expertise. Her mission is to provide dietitians with the tools, knowledge, and one-on-one support necessary to build thriving, sustainable private practices. The Ambitious Dietitian offers a range of options for dietitians and nutritionists, including mentoring, learning opportunities, and done-for-you programs. Whether clients are just starting or looking to grow their existing practices, Brianna's coaching helps them stay on track and move forward with confidence. Welcome, Brianna. Thanks so much for being here.
So great to be here and thank you, Catherine.
Absolutely. Well, this is very exciting. You are our first international guest, so hopefully the first of many. That would be my goal, my preference. So we'll start in the usual way and hear a little bit about what your journey as a dietitian has been like, what led you to your nutrition counseling specialty in that population, and then talk a little bit about how you transitioned to working more as a business mentor.
Yeah, so I guess I've been a dietitian for a very long time. Our family moved up to the Gold Coast, and I got a job as a bariatric dietitian. And I really loved that space, and over the years, it's transitioned to surgical and medical weight loss that I do, particularly with the introduction a lot of the weight loss medications. And so I was working in an environment that I didn't love as a dietitian. Um, and I fell pregnant with twins. I already had two other girls and I fell pregnant with twins. And the whole time I was, pregnant, I'm like, I'm not going back, I'm not going back, I'm not going back. And my husband was in between jobs. And that's when we started the Ambitious Dietitian to help him while I was on maternity leave. But while I was on maternity leave, I also started my own private practice. So we not only doubled the amount of kids that we had, but I started two businesses at the same time as well. And so, over the years as a dietitian, I have worked private practice in a lot of clinics, so bariatric clinics, medical weight loss clinics, a few GP clinics, and I do some of the online clients privately myself as well. And I continue to do that. I did actually go back to my salary job after my maternity leave with the twins, but didn't necessarily last too long. Basically walked into my boss's office after a really bad day and said, no, my time here is up. And the interesting thing was that I'd not long before got a promotion. And so I was doing the Ambitious Dietitian, I was doing my private practice, and I was doing a salaried job. And so, and I had, 4 kids under 5. And so it got to this point where I'm like, I can't keep doing all of this. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to scale back my private practice. So I had given notice to all my clients, all my clinics, and it was the Friday that I'd had my very last day with my private practice. I was just going to focus on my job, my part-time job, and the Ambitious Dietitian. So the Friday come, I had my very last clinic. The Monday I went to work, didn't have a great day. Tuesday morning I walked in, I'm like, my time here is up. So within 2 business days, I had said goodbye to 2/3 of my income. With 4 kids under 5 and a husband was working on and off. And so it was kind of like, you need to make this work, Brianna. Like, you have the Ambitious Dietitian and you need to make this work. And so we did. And, here we are. My twins are going to be 7 next month, and the business is still surviving and thriving.
That's really, it's always fascinating to hear how circumstance can affect our decisions in the direction that we take our careers or businesses. We frequently talk about how people had to change directions when the pandemic hit, right? And it sounds like with you, it was, your family was growing and that there was just too much on the table for you. And so
I really believe things happen for a reason. We did 9 IVF cycles to have our kids, and our theory, and values was that our kids are always in our care more than they're in someone else's care. So, our week was, divided between grandparents and us and childcare and things like that. And then, when these changes happen, it kind of just helps to reinforce some of those values that you have outside of your business, but your business is kind of that facilitator that helps you to achieve the values that you have in life.
Yeah, and can you speak a little bit more to that? It's a conversation I think a lot of us have, is how we live our business in alignment with our own personal values.
Yeah, a lot of people, work to live to work, and I really do think that we need to have the opposite. It was funny when I did quit my job, people were like, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to watch Netflix. Now Liz looked at me like stunned, and I'm like, I have like juggled so many things. I would sit on the couch and I would be on my laptop and I would be working till 12, 1 o'clock in the night when the kids were in bed. And I would listen to something on the TV, not paying too much attention because I was in work mode. Now, you know what? Now that I actually can work during the day at home and do what I need to do for the Ambitious Dietitian, I'm really looking forward to having some self-care time. And at the time that was being able to watch something on Netflix, because for years I hadn't been able to do that.
Yes.
And so, obviously Netflix is just a very like
generic example.
yeah. And everybody's form of self-care is different, and even for me, many years later it does look quite different. But I do think that work needs to facilitate the life that you want to be living. And one of the things that, the messages that we have here at the Ambitious Dietitian is that we want you to be uniquely successful. And essentially, that means that you get to set your own metrics for success. And that includes your life, but it includes your business. And they don't live in isolated containers. They are very much interlinked. But essentially, the concept of being uniquely successful is that you can set your own metrics for success. So if you are a new grad dietitian and you want to try like 5, 6, 7 different jobs and have a taste of them all and see where you go in private practice is like one, foot in the week, then that's okay. Or if you're someone that, perhaps like me, I only wanted to work school hours because I had 4 primary school age kids and I didn't want them to be going to before and after school care and things like that. That was my metric for success. Other people are like, I don't want to work for other people, or I don't want to work in a generic space. I want to be really specialized in, women's health because I just love that area and I'm so passionate about it. And so it's about you defining how you want to live your life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I love that because it helps us to be able to match our personal life, the who we are behind the scenes, with our professional facing life. Whereas often I think we can get a little bit split, where we have this sort of professional persona, the person we have to be professionally, and then behind the scenes, we've sort of got this private life. And it's so much easier when we don't have to live in that bifurcated way. And I think that having a
Just
private
being
practice, yeah, having a private practice can help us to be able to cultivate the kind of professional life that really works for us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with two things, social media, people's lives are on social media, whether you're your business page or a personal page, everyone's lives are on social media at the moment. And I think post COVID, when everything was telehealth and, we had kids coming in the background and, life was still going on behind screens, that people realized that, we it all just blends together.
Right, right. So the mask sort of came off of all of us, so to speak, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I have so many questions. And one of them is, and this might be, if you want, if you could speak a little bit to how there might be some different challenges for dietitians in Australia versus dietitians in the US. And what are some of the common challenges that your clients face professionally when they start out in private practice?
Yeah, so I guess the difference between overseas and America uh, practices is that it's the insurance base, the what we call Medicare over here is equivalent to your insurance based practices over in America, and they're set up very, very differently. We have a lot of funded programs here in terms of DVA, which is Department of Veteran Affairs. We've got the NDIS, which is a disability scheme, and then we have our Medicare, which is our general public health system, and then we have private health insurance on top of all of that. So there's a lot of funding here to get your head around, and it certainly works a lot differently to what it does over in America. That's probably one of the biggest things that I see as one of the differences. But at the end of the day, marketing your business and being a dietitian is relatively the same. Okay. The one thing that I have learnt over the last little while is that people overseas tend to have a little bit more emphasis on AIP diet, like the and testing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we aren't as developed over here in terms of a lot of that testing, and certainly not from a dietitian and nutrition space as well. It's always very interesting, when I'm working with dietitians, they're talking about LEAP programs and testing and things like that.
Yeah, so that's not as commonplace where you are. Sort of have
No,
kind of Wild West aspect with the testing and all of this. It has to necessarily be validated, and that doesn't mean it doesn't work, but it doesn't necessarily have to be validated in order for us to utilize it, right? Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, in terms of marketing, there are so many marketing strategies that are applied worldwide, whether you're, in Australia or over in America, the UK, Europe. They're proven strategies that will work irrespective of where you live geographically.
Mm-hmm.
So not a lot is different in regards to how you would be running your business from a marketing perspective. I guess legislation, tax laws, and business registrations and provider numbers and things like that are slightly different. Just knowing what you need to be compliant with based on your area.
And
Hmm.
marketing to other businesses is different from marketing to potential client consumers, and so consumer clients. What are the differences there? This is something that I have a hard time getting my head around, is how you have both angles going at once, because that seems like it's just like two different channels, two different kinds of ideal clients that you're marketing to. So how do you keep that all together?
So I very much have different marketing strategies and different platforms for each of my businesses, and I do market them very differently. So the Ambitious Dietitian is very much an online platform that I would utilize with that email list, lead magnets. We do a lot of webinars. We do a lot of like social media kind of stuff. Whereas, interestingly, with my nutrition practice, I actually do very little even social media for my business. So my marketing strategy is more on a personal basis, with developing relationships and partnerships with other professionals. So I do apply that, with the Ambitious Dietitian and some of the collaborations that we do in my Facebook group and things like that, and much like what we're doing today. But it is definitely a very different strategy because one, my family's nutritionist is very much an in-person business, so I'm very much talking to people, on the ground and developing those relationships. Whereas the Ambitious Dietitian is very much digital, so my marketing is far more digital based for that business.
Nice, nice. And so it's that local referral network that you're in contact with that is keeping that side of the business afloat.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that dietitians struggle with, from my experience, is of thinking and having a belief that if they start a social media page, they pop up a couple of posts, that they believe, the floodgates are going to open. And, gone are the days where we can, do that. I started another business when I was on maternity leave with my now 12-year-old, and Instagram was a very different place 12 years ago. And it was very easy to grow, a lot of followers in a short period of time. But that's just not the place that it is anymore in 2024. And I think, there's definitely a misconception around the longevity and the whole nurture process when it comes to creating, what I call your ecosystem of people. So creating that, your marketing ecosystem, but having those people in your funnel. So that you can nurture them, and that takes time and it takes experience to know, these people that have signed on with me now, they actually came into my ecosystem 3 months ago, and over that time, these are the touch points that they've had with me. Whereas when you're doing that in-person marketing, the return is usually a lot shorter. You can see those, clients coming through in a much shorter time frame.
So this is very interesting to me because it sounds like recognition that you do need to have two different approaches depending on who your target client is, right? And yet that funnel and lead magnet strategy that you're not using in your own private practice, are you teaching your potential business mentees sort of like a hybrid thing? You've got, you're helping them with SEO, you're doing content creation, you're helping them sort of get a bit more visibility and create websites, and yet also maybe helping them with their messaging for referral networks. How do you help them differentiate those different kinds of messaging and marketing strategies?
Yeah, look, I think knowing who you are targeting is the key to creating any kind of marketing strategy with your business. So if you don't know who you're talking to, you're not going to be able to create a message that's going to resonate with them. If you don't know who you're talking to and who your audience is, you can't go and find them and meet them there. We can't just be throwing spaghetti on the walls and expecting them to come and find you. Okay, we need to be creating content that is going to hit them, and they're going to say, oh my God, she knows me, she gets me. And that's what's going to, start that funnel. And so knowing your audience is key to being able to create that marketing strategy for your business. I do still have those funnels in my nutrition business. I just don't place as much emphasis on them.
Right, right. And would you say that that might be because you're already established, you're already sort of a known quantity where you are? And if you're trying to work with someone who's starting up a business and no one knows them or what they do, or and they don't even know how to describe what they do, that that's where all of these strategies start to come into play and have power.
Yeah, definitely. So once we kind of know who your audience is and what you want to help them with, you've got to know that problem. Like they may have a problem, but it may not be big enough for them to want to put money towards.
Mm-hmm.
So your solution needs to be able to help them solve the problem that they have, but they also need to be willing to be able to solve that problem, put money towards it. You know, so you can find so much on Google these days and with ChatGPT. What makes you stand out from everyone else, and why are you the best person to help them? So that messaging is really, really important to be able to understand, and to tie your story into how you can help them as well is a really amazing marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With the marketing that we teach, we have a business that is quite unique in that we offer coaching programs, but we also, I recognize that I'm a one-man person and I don't know everything and I don't want to know everything. It's a bit like being a dietitian. I don't want to be a generalist and know everything. I'm really good at my weight loss, surgical and medical weight loss and things like that. And that's my lane, and that's the lane that I'm going to stick in. So we have a graphic designer on our team who can help any dietitian, nutritionist with any design work. She's also our website designer, so she does a lot of the creative stuff for us, because I know I have no creative bone in my body. Um, and with the websites, we recognize the importance of SEO, and being able to have a website that looks good is okay, but having a website that actually functions properly and allows you to be found by your ideal clients is what we're really aiming for. So we have a copywriter on our team who's actually New Zealand-based dietitian, Katrina, and she will create some of that copy so that then our designer can take that copy and make that really beautiful looking website, but it's going to function properly and attract those ideal clients to start off with the copy.
Right, right. It's so frustrating to put all that work and then nobody finds you. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. The other person in our team that we have is today, and she's for people who are further along. So my business primarily focuses on people who are in those early stages, the first, getting started, thinking about it, or I've started, I've got myself as far as I can, what next kind of stage. So the first couple of years. So for people who are a little bit further along, she's actually our Meta and Google, Facebook ad support, to paid advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who have got their social media, ducks in a line, and they wanted to just take it up to that next level, she helps them to create some of that paid advertising. So once we've set things up and we know that it works, that's then when we would be talking to her. But that's certainly not in those early stages of a business. Once you're far more developed.
Right, right.
So that it's definitely a team approach.
Yeah, yeah. And you can maximize sort of the lower level things with SEO and social media, but you're going to max out on your ability to reach people without those paid ads, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we've had some really good results in terms of lead generation. So, with um, email lists and then registrations for conversion events.
Mm-hmm.
You've then got to do the work and show up and nurture them. But getting them into that top of the funnel has been really, really exciting to watch people do things that they couldn't have done without that paid advertising.
Yeah, that does sound exciting. Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to ask maybe, what would you say are some key qualities or habits that distinguish the dietitians who are most successful in building their practices? What sort of habits or qualities do you think they possess or cultivate in order to be successful?
Yeah. When I think about all of the people that we've worked through over the years, it's a willingness to fail. You've got to be willing to learn along the way, assess, analyze, and then change course if you need to, or keep doing what you're doing if it's working. But just because you've done something once doesn't mean that that's it. That's the end. If it's worked the first time, great, keep going with it. But if it hasn't worked, tweak it, analyze it. Change things up and go again. There's so many stories that I've had of people that have done it this time and they haven't got the best results, but then they've kept going, they've tweaked a few things, and they've done it, pretty much replicated the same thing with a few tweaks, and they've done amazing. So it's just being open to feedback and open to analyzing and critiquing and changing and moving forward, because a step forward is a step forward.
Yep.
And so having a can-do attitude is really important. I'm typically the person who just throw me in the deep end and I'll be there. I'll be swimming, but not everyone is like that. But being able to think on your feet and be able to adapt as your business is evolving is really important. I think some organizational skills is going to serve you well when you're running a business, because it's not just about showing up, seeing your patients and signing off at the end of the day. Running your business, any nutrition practice is a hard job, and it's a time required, a big time that is required to be able to create the business that you want. And I think a lot of people get lost in that, and they find it hard to juggle. A lot of people that I work with are perhaps in employment, and they're doing this as a side hustle until we can get this up to this point to decrease this point. And so knowing that short term, that it is going to be a hustle, that it is going to require time, and there are sacrifices that are probably going to need to be made, and not being afraid to say no to some of those things while you're prioritizing the business, if it's at the point that you want to be getting it to. But having realistic expectations as well is another key thing there, because as I said before, people have these expectations that such and such as I've seen them do on social media this, and we compare ourselves to other people, and we only get half the story when we're doing that. And so the only race that you are running is your own race, and you only need to be worried about yourself and what you're capable of doing.
That is such a great reminder. Yeah, that sort of comparing mind that can come in and really derail us when we see all these other people. Like, how come they're being successful and I'm not? Or maybe I should just copy them and do what they're doing. Well, it's not going to come across authentically now, is it? So
but you don't know what's happened in the back end. Like, they might have had a 20K launch, but they might have spent $18,000 on ads, and like, what's actually happened in the background there.
Yeah, precisely. And so a conversation that is really common in the States, and I'm not sure if it's the same where you are, but I hear a lot of dietitians feel like they are undervalued in either the professional workplace or by other potential clients, and then feel like they have a hard time trying to prove their worth or communicate their value as a dietitian. And so I'm wondering if you have strategies that help dietitians build their confidence with that kind of messaging of communicating their value effectively and self-promotion, if that doesn't come naturally to them.
Yeah, look, I think you really always need to lead with value. So how can you help the clients and know that you are making a difference in their life by doing what you do? Nutrition is amazing, and we are so lucky to be able to help people do what we do in the way that we do it. We can work in so many different areas. We can use so many different counseling skills to be able to help our clients, and we can make such a huge difference in their life. So having success stories, having word of mouth, and people like testimonials that are telling you how great you are and what a difference you've made in their life. Like, I was in clinic yesterday, and one of my patients walked out and he said to me, turned around and goes, "Thanks for just not being a scary dietitian." And I'm like, we are not scary.
Mhm.
There is this perception that dietitians are the food police, and we both know that we are just such calm, nurturing people generally.
Mhm.
From the dietitians that I know, that's the generalization that I can make from them. So leading with value, being confident that you can do what you do, listening to your clients and knowing that you are making a change. And, I've even had people before who have had notebooks and they've written or a file on their computer, and it's like my wins. And they will write down some of those wins in the notebook on their computer file, so that if they are having a bad day, they go back and they can read it and they're like, you know what, like I really am a good person and I really do make a difference. And it's just a really good reminder, when you're not having a great day, that you are an amazing dietitian.
Yeah, that rings true. I work with eating disorders, and it's not always the easy success story, right? Sometimes we're really struggling, but when we do well, it feels really great. So that really resonates. Yeah, yeah. So let's spend maybe the rest of our time together hearing a bit about how you help dietitians, what sort of your suite of offers is. I know that you've got a lot of different ways that you help, but maybe give us a little overview.
Yeah, so the main core offer that we have, and not a lot of people know this right now because it is a bit of a change in our business that we are entering into for 2025. So traditionally, we've done a one-on-one program that's moving more towards a hybrid program as of January. So we're not actually taking enrollments at the moment. My kids have got 3 more weeks of school, and then we've got 7 weeks off. So we are certainly winding down in terms of my role in the business at the moment. But it's going to be a hybrid program, and by that what I mean is there'll be some online modules that go through the 6 foundations that we have in our business. Where we really get you set up, started, and growing your business. Um, that will be combined with some group coaching calls that we'll be doing throughout the week that people can attend to, do that hot seat coaching for any questions that they have. And then there'll be like a community forum that people can be engaged with as well.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who wants graphic design, so that's whether it's logo development, resource development, or marketing material, Carly is able to help them with that. For anyone who's wanting websites, we can certainly do the SEO copy and building out the website from scratch. Otherwise, if you do have an existing website and we just want to SEO focus, we can have that copy rewritten as well. And then with Tanai, we can look at paid advertising. Facebook, Meta, Google, and she's moving into Spotify as well, which isn't as big over here, but apparently it's big in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if you've heard of it before.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you've got some different levels of ways people can work with you. Will you still be offering the one-on-one, or is it transitioning mostly towards the hybrid model?
I'll be taking select one-on-ones. So at the moment, I offer what's called a power hour session.
Mm-hmm.
So people can just select to do a one-on-one as a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone that's wanting one-on-one will be basically an upgrade to the group program.
Okay. So my last question for you is, who are your favorite kinds of clients to work with for future business owners or people building their practice? Who are your favorite kinds of clients? What would be the perfect fit?
My perfect ambitious dietitian client, I guess, is someone who feels stuck in their career and really wants to take their reins and be in charge of the future direction of their life. Who's ready to create a business that fits around their life so that they can work to live and not live to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that resonates with a lot of us in our reasons for starting a business, right? Yeah, it's to have that freedom and ability to structure our lives the way that we want. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And being, a business owner gives us the freedom to do that. It's not going to happen instantly, but you put in the work and you'll certainly get the rewards from it.
100%. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Brianna, for giving us your wealth of information on some of these really tricky aspects of, getting your practice together. And I think many of us could use some mentorship or coaching along the way. And so once I post the replay, I'd love to have you maybe drop in a link to how people can easily find you. And of course, he's findable on online at the Ambitious Dietitian.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Catherine.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for everybody who has joined either live or watching the replay. And we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.